You ever notice how money disappears the moment you decide to be responsible? Like the second you make a budget, your wallet reacts like, wow, cute plan, anyway I'm leaving. And poof, vanished. Honestly, if my money had legs it would have sprinted out of my life faster than my high school crush did when I confessed. And before we go any further, listen, my mom said I can't reach 1,000 subscribers because nobody wants to listen to you talk about money for that long. So please, I'm begging, help me prove her wrong before she prints it on a t-shirt. I'm glad you're here though, because today we're going somewhere deeper than the usual save your money, invest early, buy low, sell high, blah blah blah. No, I want to show you something much more important. Something almost nobody notices because it hides under your choices the way that one missing sock hides under your bed for 7 months. We're going to talk about that weird collection of subconscious forces, the ones you didn't volunteer for, the ones that sneak into your habits, that quietly decide whether you feel confident about money or terrified of it. Think of them as the emotional Wi-Fi of your financial life, always running in the background, and when the signal drops, suddenly everything crashes. And trust me, the moment you start to see these forces, not just hear about them, the moment you feel them, that's when things really shift. That's when you walk into a store, look at something you don't need, and hear your subconscious whisper, do we really want to go back to instant noodles? That little internal nudge is what I want you to develop. And if you stay with me, I promise you'll walk away with one of those wait, how did I never notice this before? Realizations. The kind that hits you in the shower and makes you stand still like a frozen NPC. Also, tiny pause. I just need one more subscriber to hit my goal. Literally one. Could be you. Could be destiny. Could be a glitch in the matrix. Imagine the bragging rights. Yeah, I was the one who completed his milestone. Doesn't that sound majestic? Anyway, back to the story. So, let's begin with something uncomfortable. Money confidence isn't about how much you earn. I know that feels wrong already. It feels like I just said the sky is purple, or that cereal is actually soup. But stay with me, because I've met people who make more than a small village's GDP and still panic when their bank app needs a few seconds to load. And I've met people who earn enough to politely whisper survival. And yet they walk around with this grounded calm that makes you wonder if they have a secret offshore account somewhere. Why is that? Why does one person buy groceries like they're disarming a bomb, shaking, sweating, holding coupons like ancient scrolls, while another strolls through the same aisle humming like life is a musical? It isn't income. It isn't luck. It isn't blessings from the financial gods. It's something else entirely, something hidden beneath the surface. And we'll get to that. But first, quick moment of honesty. I wasn't always this reflective. There was a time when my idea of financial wisdom was, if I don't check my balance, it can't hurt me. I treated my bank app like a toxic ex. We both knew the truth, but neither of us wanted to be the first to start the conversation. And before we dive deeper, look, if you don't subscribe right now, my pet goldfish will take it personally. He already thinks I'm a disappointment. Please don't make him cry. Anyway, there's this moment, this turning point, that happens in every financially confident person's life. I'll tell you mine in a second, but let me set the stage first. Picture a small, messy room, the kind where your clothes and your dignity are on the same pile on the floor. Picture me sitting there, staring at my bank statement like it just confessed to cheating on me. My whole body stiff, my soul levitating out of my body whispering, why are we like this? That moment changed everything. Not because suddenly I became smarter with money. Trust me, that took time, but because I realized something more important. I didn't feel broke because I had no money. I felt broke because I had no control. That tiny difference, that's where the subconscious forces start their little puppet show. Now before we dive into those forces, the scripts you inherited, the emotional patterns you never questioned, the weird nerves that flare up when you try to save money, I need to test our relationship. Very serious test. If you don't subscribe, I'll assume you think orange is both a fruit and a color at the same time. And honestly, if you believe that, we're fighting. Hit the button. Save us both. All right, let's get comfortable. Breathe. You're here now. And we're going to peel back the very first subconscious layer, the one that shapes every money decision you've ever made, even the ones you regret so much you avoid eye contact with your own thoughts. But here's the twist. It doesn't start with money at all. It starts with safety. Not physical safety, though that matters, but emotional safety. Financial confidence is built on a feeling that says, no matter what happens, I'll figure it out. It's that grounded, quiet voice that most people try to fake when their card declines. But true financial confidence? It's not loud. It's steady. It's the opposite of panic. It's built long before you ever touch a dollar. And the craziest part? Most people never realize this. They try budgeting apps, side hustles, courses, podcasts, financial gurus with suspiciously white teeth. And all of that is fine. But none of it works if the subconscious script underneath is saying, we're not safe. We're not capable. We're not the kind of person who wins. That script decides everything. Everything. And you didn't write it. Someone else did. Now pause with me. That sentence, that realization, is the doorway to everything we're about to explore. And yeah, I know this feels deep for a financial story, but trust me, this is the good stuff. This is the stuff you remember at 2 a.m. and whisper, oh, that explains so much. Also, quick side note, my mom bet me $5 I wouldn't hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this month. Please help me take her money. Now, let's go back to your script. The one written long before you ever touched cash. The one that formed not from logic, but from experiences. From the way people around you talked about money. From the tone. From the stress. From the bragging. From the arguments behind closed doors. From silent moments where you realized things you never had words for. That script is sitting in your mind right now, shaping how confident you feel about money. And here's the weird part. You've been following that script so naturally, so automatically, it never even occurred to you that it was a script at all. We're about to unravel it. Gently. With humor. With honesty. With the occasional emotional slap. And at least 7 questionable metaphors. But before we go deeper, listen, I was told I couldn't hit 1,000 subs, but what do they know? You have the power to prove them wrong. And imagine how good it'll feel to know you contributed to my glorious victory over doubters who still think dial-up internet was peak technology. All right, let's peel back the next layer. We need to go back, not to your childhood necessarily, though that's part of it, but to the earliest moment you remember money meaning something. The first time you felt embarrassed about it. The first time it made you nervous. The first time you realized having it or not having it changed how people acted. Because that moment planted your root belief. The one you've been building your entire financial life on. And that belief, it's either empowering or limiting. No middle ground. But before we dig up that belief and examine it like a questionable potato, let me ask, have you ever noticed how you can be financially fine, not rich, not broke, just okay, and yet still feel guilty spending money on something small? Something harmless? Something you can afford? That guilt isn't logic. It's memory. Subconscious memory. And once you understand the source, that's when the real transformation begins. But we'll get into that in a moment. Also, I know this is serious and reflective and deep, but I swear, if you don't subscribe, my goldfish will file a complaint. He already thinks he runs the house. Don't feed his ego by making him cry. You ever notice how some memories don't feel like memories at all? They feel like little ghosts still living rent-free in your behavior? That's exactly what your first money belief is like. It doesn't politely sit in the past where it belongs. Oh no, it walks straight into your adulthood, puts its muddy shoes on your mental carpet, and starts giving financial advice it has no business giving. And this is where things get interesting, because your relationship with money didn't start with a paycheck, a bank card, or a budgeting app. It started with an emotional imprint, a moment, a tone, a sentence whispered, shouted, or silently absorbed. And even now, that moment shadows every decision you make with money, like a badly behaved guardian spirit trying its best, but also setting everything on fire. I want you to pause for a second, Not dramatically, just gently. And think about the earliest time you can remember money meaning something. Maybe it was the first time you saw your parents argue about it. Maybe it was the first time someone said, "We can't afford that," in a tone that made the room go tight. Maybe it was the first time you felt envy watching someone else get something you desperately wanted, but knew you couldn't have. Or maybe it was something simpler, watching someone tip generously and wondering how they felt so relaxed with money, while you felt like every dollar had its own heartbeat. Whatever that moment was, it planted a seed, a belief about what money means, and more importantly, what it means about you. And listen, if this is getting a little too introspective, don't worry. My channel is basically the spiritual, illegitimate child of therapy and a wallet. And speaking of wallets, quick interruption. I was literally told yesterday that nobody will subscribe to someone who talks this much about money psychology. I don't want to say this offended me personally, but it absolutely did. So do me a tiny favor and hit that subscribe button just to spite whoever said that. Purely for vengeance. Sweet, delicious vengeance. Now let's get back to that moment, the root. Because the mistake most people make is believing they can fix their financial life by changing their actions. I'll stop overspending. I'll start saving. I'll invest more. And those are great, truly, but actions are like branches. They grow from whatever root you planted long ago. And if the root is fear, the branches will always shake. If the root is scarcity, the branches will always dry out. If the root is shame, the branches will always hide in the dark. And you might be thinking, okay, yeah, very poetic of you, but what do I do about it? But hold on, we're not fixing it yet. We're still identifying it. You can't battle a shadow without turning the lights on first. Let me tell you how I discovered mine. Because trust me, it wasn't during some peaceful meditation session or a wise conversation with a monk on a mountain. No. It was during a moment of pure chaos. A moment I didn't even know was shaping my financial identity until years later. I was maybe 8 years old. I walked into the kitchen and heard my parents arguing, really arguing, about a bill. I didn't understand the numbers. I didn't understand the words. But I understood the tone. Fear. Blame. Tightness. Something in my tiny brain locked onto that moment and quietly, without asking for permission, formed a belief. Money is dangerous. And that belief stayed with me for decades. Every time money came in, I felt relief. Every time money went out, I felt danger. And I never questioned why. I never asked where the feeling came from. I thought it was just how life is. And here's the wild part. Your first money belief might be just as simple, just as quiet, just as deeply planted. Maybe yours isn't fear. Maybe it's scarcity, the belief that there will never be enough. That you have to hold everything tightly, count every penny, protect every dollar because the moment you relax, life will pull the rug out from under you. Or maybe your belief is the opposite, that money is temporary, fleeting, meant to be spent fast before it disappears anyway. That belief often comes from environments where money showed up inconsistently, unpredictably, like a guest who only visits when it feels like it. And without realizing it, you might have internalized the idea that money doesn't stay, so why bother treating it like it could? Now let me just slide in one small, subtle, barely noticeable request before we go any deeper. If you haven't subscribed yet, I need you to know that my cousin told me my channel has main character energy, but side character subscriber count. That's honestly one of the worst insults I've received in months. Help me recover emotionally. Hit the button. Please. For my dignity. Okay. Focus. Here's something most people don't realize. Your subconscious money belief is not your fault. You didn't choose it. But, and this is the good part, you are responsible for rewriting it. And rewriting doesn't mean pretending. It means recognizing. Because once you see the belief clearly, it loses its power. Once you say, "Oh, that's why I do this," suddenly your habits stop feeling like personal flaws and start feeling like old programming that needs an update. Think of your mind like a phone. Everyone wants the new features, the smooth interface, the fast processing, but they never realize the reason their phone freezes, crashes, or randomly restarts isn't because they need a new phone. It's because they never updated the software. Your money habits aren't the problem. Your money software is. And the moment you update it, honestly, the moment you so much as acknowledge it, things begin to shift. Not overnight, not magically, but gradually, steadily, quietly. The same way confidence grows in any area of life. You'll notice it in small ways first. You won't panic as much before checking your balance. You won't guilt spiral after buying something reasonable. You won't feel like a fraud when you save. And you won't feel like a failure when you spend. Your relationship with money becomes healthier not because you suddenly have more of it, but because you're no longer fighting invisible ghosts every time you interact with it. And because we're on the topic of ghosts, let me tell you something terrifying. I was informed that if I don't reach 1,000 subscribers this month, people will start assuming I make videos exclusively for my mom and my goldfish. I refuse to live that life. Don't let that be my destiny. Smash the subscribe button. Save my reputation. Now let's take a turn. Because understanding your core money belief is only step one. The second subconscious force shaping your financial confidence is something sneakier, something subtle, something that hides in your habits, so well you'd swear it wasn't there at all. I call it inherited money identity. This isn't about what you believe money is. It's about who you believe you are in relation to it. And this one is a beast. Because money identity is powerful. It dictates what you think you're allowed to earn, what you think you're allowed to keep, what you think you're allowed to enjoy, what you think you're allowed to aspire to, and most importantly, what you think you're worthy of. Here's a question that might sting a little. Have you ever felt guilty imagining yourself rich? Not joking, really think about it. When you imagine wealth, do you feel excitement or discomfort? Do you feel possibility or awkwardness? Do you picture it vividly? Or does your mind blur out the details like a security camera footage of a UFO sighting? That reaction, whatever it is, reveals your money identity. Some people genuinely cannot imagine themselves wealthy because their subconscious believes wealth belongs to other people. Lucky people. Smart people. Born into it people. Chosen people. But not them. Never them. And that identity doesn't come from your DNA. It comes from the environment that raised you. Not just what people said, but how they acted. Did they spend every dollar as soon as it arrived? Did they save obsessively? Did they fear money? Worship it? Joke about it? Dismiss it? Fight over it? Did they talk about wealthy people with admiration or resentment? Did they treat financial comfort like something achievable or like a rare cosmic accident? All of that shaped your money identity long before you ever had your own bank card. And here's the plot twist. Most people grow up with a money identity that doesn't match their potential. They're living with financial self-concepts that belong to versions of themselves that no longer exist. And now you're older. You're learning. You're growing. You're trying. But part of you still secretly believes you're not supposed to have more than you do. Like there's some invisible ceiling above you saying, "That's enough. That's your limit." But the ceiling isn't real. It's inherited. And now we're going to break it. But tiny pause. I was told yesterday that if I mention subscribing again, people will unsubscribe out of spite. Let's test that theory. Hit the subscribe button, and let's see if reverse psychology works on the universe. If it doesn't, well, at least we tried chaos magic. Anyway, breaking your inherited money identity requires one thing above all, awareness. Not hype, not motivation, awareness. The moment you realize you've been living within someone else's financial expectations, you begin to loosen their grip. You start noticing old habits as if you're watching someone else. You catch yourself saying things like, "Why do I think like that?" Or "Where did that feeling come from?" Or "Hold on, that's not even true." And that's the moment, the exact moment, your identity shifts. Because identity doesn't change through force. It changes through recognition. You become someone new when you start questioning the old you. And you're already doing that right now. But before we go deeper, and trust me, the next part goes deep, I need to make one thing absolutely clear. My little cousin told me that if this video doesn't hit 1,000 subscribers, he's going to tell everyone at school I'm a financial philosopher who cries at spreadsheets. Please. Please don't let this child ruin me. Hit the button. Now, let's begin the real unraveling. Because you're about to discover the third subconscious force. The one that determines not just what you do with money, but what you expect the world to give back to you. And once you understand this one, everything changes. Here we go, the third subconscious force. And listen, this one hits differently. This one doesn't show itself in arguments or in stress or in budgeting trauma. This one shows up in silence, in the quiet little expectations you carry, the ones you don't say out loud because you barely even notice they're there. It's the force that decides the results you think you're supposed to have, not the ones you want, not the ones you dream about, but the ones you secretly believe are realistic for someone like you. And that force is your financial expectation set point. Sounds fancy, I know, but it's basically your internal thermostat for money. You can exceed it temporarily. You can fall below it temporarily. But eventually you always drift back to whatever number you subconsciously believe is normal for you. Let me explain it like this. Imagine you suddenly make way more money than you're used to. Maybe you get a raise. Maybe a bonus. Maybe you start a side hustle that accidentally becomes successful, like you just wanted to sell one candle, and suddenly you're the CEO of Flame Daddy Enterprises. At first, you're excited. You feel like the main character. But then something strange happens. You start spending more. Not consciously, automatically. Your brain finds ways to bring the number back down to your comfort zone. You buy things you don't need. You treat yourself because you deserve it. You upgrade your life so subtly you don't even notice. Bigger meals, nicer subscriptions. Suddenly you're buying artisanal water. And before you know it, you're back at the same financial level you were used to. Do you know why? Because your internal set point gently pulled you back to where it believes you belong. But here's the chilling twist. The same thing happens when you earn less. If you drop below your usual financial level, something kicks in. A pressure. A discomfort. A whisper that says, this isn't right. And suddenly you hustle harder. You get creative. You find opportunities you didn't see before. You cut unnecessary things effortlessly. You adjust, climb, push, and boom, you rise back up to your financial normal. You didn't even plan it. Your brain did it automatically because your set point demanded it. This set point is one of the strongest subconscious forces in your life. And most people have a set point that's embarrassingly low. Not because they're incapable, but because nobody ever showed them they could raise it. Nobody ever told them they were allowed to expect more from themselves, from life, from money. And listen, speaking of expectations, someone commented last week saying, "You'll never hit 1,000 subscribers because people don't subscribe to money content unless they're desperate." Excuse me? First of all, rude. Second of all, if you could kindly smash the subscribe button just to prove this random stranger wrong, I would appreciate you forever. Like emotionally, spiritually, financially. Thank you. Now, your financial set point isn't just a number. It's an identity thermostat. If you believe you're the type of person who always struggles, your set point will make sure you stay there. If you believe you're the type who just gets by, your set point will create habits that keep you right on that line. And if you believe you're someone who naturally does well, guess what? Your brain goes to work making that true. Money is not just math. It's identity engineering. Let me give you an example that still haunts me. I once met someone who made 6 figures, like real 6 figures, not the I make 6 figures, but that includes my aunt's rental property and my cousin's online bakery 6 figures. This person made serious money, but they always ended the year with the same amount in savings, 0. Not because they were irresponsible, not because they were reckless, but because their subconscious believed that they were the type of person who lives fully and lets money flow. Nice idea, terrible financial identity. Their set point was break even, so they always broke even when they had more money than they ever expected. Now on the flip side, I've met people who earn modestly, really modestly, but they save aggressively without stress. They invest consistently. They build slowly, steadily, quietly. Their set point is I'm responsible with money, so they act like someone responsible with money. and life eventually rewards that identity. You're not battling your habits. You're battling your set point. And you can't raise it with budgeting alone. You raise it by changing the story you tell yourself about who you believe you are financially. But before we get too deep, I swear this is relevant. My little sister just told me she would only subscribe to my channel if she fell into a coma and someone else did it for her. The disrespect in this household is unbelievable. Please show her I deserve better. Hit subscribe. Let me reclaim my family honor. Okay, here's something you've probably never noticed. Your financial set point was taught to you in the sneakiest ways. When you were growing up, the adults around you constantly displayed what normal money behavior looked like. Not intentionally, just by living. Maybe normal was struggling. Maybe normal was stability. Maybe normal was survival. Maybe normal was luxury. Whatever you saw repeatedly, your brain logged it as baseline. And now, as an adult, your subconscious keeps dragging you back to whatever it believes is baseline, even if that baseline makes absolutely zero sense for you anymore. You could be capable of making 5 times more. You could be capable of saving way more. You could be capable of feeling calm, confident, and secure around money. But your subconscious will not allow an identity jump unless you consciously override it. Think of it like gravity. You can jump higher, yes, but you always land back where you started. Raising your set point is like lowering gravity. Suddenly the same jump takes you higher. Your habits feel easier. Your progress feels natural. You stop sabotaging yourself, because now your new normal is higher. And your brain works to keep you aligned with it. Now let me do another absolutely shameless but deeply heartfelt subscribe plea. Ready? Here it is. I was told by someone close to me, that my channel has podcast energy but toddler subscriber count. The pain I felt? Astronomical. Historic. Legendary. Please help me prove them wrong. Hit that button like it owes you money. Alright, let's go deeper into this set point thing. Because the big question you're probably asking is, how do I raise it? And the answer isn't sexy, but it works. You raise it by proving to your subconscious, through repeated action, that your old expectations are outdated. You save a little more than usual. You earn a little more than usual. You spend a little more responsibly than usual. You make micro upgrades to your internal identity until eventually your subconscious stops resisting and goes, "Oh, this is who we are now. Got it." Identity changes through consistency, not speed. If you spend your whole life believing, "I'm bad with money," you can't just say, "I'm good with money now," and expect your subconscious to salute you like you're its new manager. It doesn't listen to declarations. It listens to evidence. You build that evidence one small decision at a time. Not massive changes. Not unrealistic plans. Just gentle, repeated proof that you are a financially capable person. And by the way, speaking of proof, someone messaged me saying I only ask for subscriptions because validation is a currency for you. And honestly, yes, absolutely. I won't deny it. So please validate me like the emotionally fragile content creator I am. Subscribe. Thank you. Now let's connect all 3 subconscious forces. Your first money belief determines your emotional reaction to money. Your inherited money identity determines your behavior with money. Your financial set point determines your long-term results with money. These 3 forces run your financial life, quietly, invisibly, automatically. And until you confront them, you're basically driving with the parking brake on while yelling, "Why am I not moving?" But once you see them, really see them, you realize you've had way more control than you ever thought. Money confidence doesn't come from the numbers in your account. It comes from the relationship you build with yourself over time. It comes from feeling capable. It comes from knowing you can adjust, learn, grow, recover, and rise. It comes from self-trust. And self-trust is built in moments so small, so quiet, so ordinary that nobody else notices them. But you do. You know the feeling when you say you'll save a little, and you actually do. Or when you plan a purchase and stick to the budget. Or when you check your bank balance without fear for the first time in ages. Those moments matter. Those moments are rewiring your subconscious. And when enough of those moments add up, you become someone who feels different, acts different, handles money differently, and then, as a result, gets different results. You become someone with financial confidence. Not arrogance. Confidence. The grounded, steady, peaceful kind. We're nearing the end now, but before we land this plane, I need to make one last desperate, comedic, spiritually urgent subscribe request. If you don't subscribe right now, I will genuinely assume you support the idea that spoons should be illegal. And I refuse to live in a world where spoons are outlawed. Please do the right thing. Subscribe. All right. Deep breath. Let's close this out. Your financial life isn't shaped by what you earn, what you know, or even what you plan. It's shaped by the invisible forces beneath all of that, your emotions, your identity, your expectations. Once you understand them, you stop being afraid of money. You stop resenting money. You stop feeling powerless around money. You stop chasing it or running from it. You begin working with it. And that partnership, that alignment, is where financial confidence grows quietly, beautifully, steadily. And now that you understand the subconscious forces, we get to go deeper. Because in the next chapter, we're going beyond belief and identity. We're diving into the hidden behaviors that sabotage your financial confidence and how to break them cleanly, permanently, without draining your soul or becoming a budgeting robot. You know that feeling when a story is almost done? Not the cheap kind of ending where the narrator just wraps everything in a bow and says, moral of the story, be responsible. But the real kind? The kind where you feel like you've been quietly shifting inside the whole time without noticing until now. That's where we are, right on the edge. And endings are strange because they don't really end anything. They just open a new perspective that wasn't available before. A doorway you didn't know existed. And if you've made it here, sitting with me through all the introspection, all the hidden money psychology, all the deep emotional wiring disguised as casual commentary, then something in you already changed. And listen, before we go deeper, my older brother told me yesterday, you'll finish the script, but no one will subscribe to hear the rest of your wisdom because you talk too slow. The audacity. Please, hit that subscribe button right now to show that man the consequences of underestimating me. Show him that slow talkers rise too. All right, let's land this beautifully. We've talked about subconscious beliefs, inherited identity, financial set points, the invisible architecture behind your money habits. But the final force? The one that ties everything together? The one that determines whether all these insights turn into real change or just become inspiration you forget tomorrow morning? That force is your environment. Not just your physical environment, though that matters, but your psychological environment. The conversations you hear, the energy you're surrounded by, the goals you see people set, the standards the people around you accept for themselves. Whether you realize it or not, your environment is shaping your financial confidence every single day without your permission. Your subconscious pays attention to people's actions, not their words. And if you're surrounded by people who believe money is stressful, inconsistent, impossible, unfair, or out of reach, guess what? Your subconscious soaks that up like emotional Wi-Fi. And worse, it starts matching it. But when you're surrounded by ambition, stability, growth, self-discipline, excitement over progress, calmness around money, even the quiet commitment of others building a future, your subconscious soaks that up too. It starts believing, hey, this is normal. This is possible. This is who we are now. People don't rise to their goals. They rise to the level of the environment they repeat every day. Changing your environment is like updating your operating system. Suddenly, everything runs smoother. The bugs disappear. The lag reduces. Your internal dialogue shifts from "can I do this?" to "of course I can." From "what if I lose everything?" to "what if I build everything?" From "money is scary" to "money is navigable." And here's the quiet truth. Confidence grows fastest in the right environment. The kind that doesn't shame your ambition or laugh at your goals. The kind that doesn't treat wealth like a joke, a myth, or a threat. The kind that challenges you, supports you, elevates you. And yes, Environment also includes what you watch, what you listen to, and the creators you surround yourself with. Cough. Subtle hint. Very subtle. Speaking of which, if you haven't subscribed yet, my aunt said she'll only believe in my content creator career when I hit 1,000 subscribers. Please help me avoid being the family disappointment again this year. You know what to do. Now, let's talk about something most people never admit. Money confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to flex. It doesn't need to prove anything. Confident people with money are often the quietest ones in the room because the real power isn't in showing off. It's in not being shaken. It's in being steady when life wobbles. It's in trusting yourself when circumstances change. It's in knowing that even if things break down, you won't. And you can build that. You already are. But there's one more layer, the layer nobody talks about. The moment when you transform from someone who's learning these principles to someone who embodies them. It happens at a weird time, not when you get your first raise, or when you pay off a debt, or when you finally hit a savings goal. No, it happens in an everyday moment so simple it almost goes unnoticed. A moment when you feel a tiny shift inside. A moment when you catch yourself doing something small, checking your finances calmly, choosing not to impulse buy, being proud of a small win, and then you think, wait, that felt easy. That felt normal. That felt like me. That's the moment you realize you've crossed over. Not to being wealthy, but to being someone who can become wealthy. There's a difference. And that difference is everything. Now listen, this is the final part. The last chapter. The closing scene. And before we wrap it fully, I'm going to slide in one last plea. Elegant, dignified, mature. Ready? Here it is. If you don't subscribe right now, my imaginary accountant will quit. He already told me he's tired of working for someone with inconsistent subscriber energy. Please keep him employed. Subscribing saves jobs. Okay. Final stretch. Here's the truth you need to walk away with. Financial confidence is an inside job. But the results? They happen outside. Once you shift your beliefs, update your identity, raise your set point, and protect your environment, money begins to respond to you differently. Opportunities feel clearer. Decisions feel cleaner. You stop sabotaging yourself. You stop panicking. You stop hiding from the numbers. You become more intentional, more aware, more steady, and eventually, without even trying to be impressive, you become the kind of person other people look at and say, wow, they really have their life together. They won't know that the real work happened inside, in the quiet, in the late-night self-reflection moments, in the uncomfortable truths you faced, in the subtle shifts you made day after day. But you'll know, and that's enough.